So everybody, it's Amon here. Welcome back to some more of Amons Reviews. Great Warriors. The Warriors of Corner Island. The Great Big Coney. CI. The Warriors game and the Warriors movie, as you see by the title. I'm going to be reviewing it, talking about it, have multiple things I have to say about it. 13 big things to correlate to this big ass video. It's going to be long. Might need to make a part 2. Maybe the case. See if I can do it in one take. Will be a challenge of my own. I hope you guys will enjoy it. I love this game. This game is a classic. The movie is an alrighty cinema classic. And I hope you guys will enjoy the video. And if you did comment, please go watch the Warriors movie. It's a banger. Warriors, a very inanimate game with a gang about obviously warrior-like people, but not in the form of warriors like in the case for the original big baseness involved in the case of this was about in a sense. Time to go and talk to you guys about what the Warriors is. Time to go ahead and turn on a classic theme for y'all. What the Warriors is, it was based on a book of the same name back over in 1980 or something. Do not know the exact time of doing a little bit of my research, but that also was the heel basis, and to color with that to be the baseness from a book written all the way back over in AD ancient time in Greece by a soldier of a Greek army writing about the legendary mythological story of, I think, his adventures or somebody else. You can look it up a lot more online. I just did my research to go ahead and play more of that stuff. I did a lot more research about the circuit stuff. I was going to give you guys a history lesson. There is a video that I actually watched about it, but it was a long time ago for this plaque information I got together for this, talking about it in its own right, that put it together, that holds a bigger amount on the factors of everything coming together involving this, which is why it's the way it is and the way I feel about everything, which is how it corresponds to this and all that. That's the main reason why. So just to make that clear, again, with the Warriors as a concept was made out from a Greek person over back in obviously ancient Greece, spanning it over into eventually the book, which obviously didn't write it there, but as the basis for that book that period into this. If we're talking about the original Greek story, it's not exactly like this at all within the form of the movie, because the movie in comparison is inside the game, because obviously to talk about that later on, the movie in the game or actually canon the same as the circle verse. It does pop up in the canon comment involving the case of the movie, which obviously was made in 1979, and then when the Warriors game came out was in 2005, a year before I was born, because I was born in 2006, July 6th. Obviously now 15, if you guys have got the math already right in your head. Pretty dope time. Maybe born, you know what I'm saying, you know, most perfect nigga alive, you know what I'm saying, ball on the road. The game that came out in the time for a bunch of other cases of Rockstar games were coming out, and its technical legacy descendant later on, which is a game that's very similar to, but not exactly like it at all, but still a great A game. Bully came out in 2007, I'm pretty sure. I'll go and correct myself with the right case of research that comes later on with this, even though I'm pretty sure exactly that I'm right with this from the script handle as well. But at the same time, this game sparked a whole bunch of different other stuff over some other games. In the case of Evolving Fighters, kind of is a very underrated game, a very dope game. And this game again within the movie comes in inner circle. Obviously this game bringing a bigger arcing form of point, evolving the case of story, evolving the movie, and with the movie having some same for the story and a compartment of things that came from the game by original story art was into put into the movie as well. So obviously from when the movie came out in 1979, the same year escaped from my mom was born, even though she was not born in 1979. Obviously the question on his age, but in that time, the late 70s, wasn't a time when my mom was around. So at the same time, my mom never actually heard of it, never saw it or anything like that. I asked her, she don't know what it is, she would never even like this movie. This movie is everything disturbing in her own words from what you would probably like. Maybe one day I'll sit her down and have her watch it. Maybe it'll be a reaction video with my mom. She'll probably go ahead and leave my room by the time she sees what Ajax is doing, because she's just going to despise him. most likely. My dad has seen it, I'm pretty sure, or at least heard of it from a good extent, because I don't know when my dad was born, surprisingly, but at least he heard of it. He trying to maybe rock me with the vest, you know what I'm saying? You got represent. I got a red headband representing Cleon and Cochise at the same time. You know, I gotta be a warrior, a war chief, you know what I'm saying? But with these warriors in this game, not in the same state of the ancient Greek warriors, there's the baseness point involving them within the case of the book, but actually are a lot more similar to the case of the book that obviously the Warriors movie is based off of. Now there's a big piece of difference between both of them, but they have a lot of similarities in the format, them being gangs and meetings, Cyrus and that kind of stuff that comes with that. As the Warriors hailing all the way out from the Big Coney, Coney Island, with multiple warriors and multiple people that makes them super cool. They have multiple different members of them. These members is Rembrandt, the youngest most likely, the young blood that be doing his own thing, Ajax, the bruiser, Cleon / war chief, the leader, Swan, the protagonist of the movie, and a very adamant but knucklehead when he needs to. And then you got someone like Vermin, the cool cat, the guy who don't take nothing seriously but do like chicks. Cochise, the Native American looking dude that can rock with one of the best and is a real nigga. Snow, Brutacious, aka Snowman is actually his name, which I actually saw some footage of him being counted as Snowman, but that's his actual name in full. Obviously, Snow is a lot more cooler, but at the same time, being Snowman isn't as bad for the form of him being Brutacious and the fact that he'll carve you up like a snowman if he needs to. And then at the same time, you have a few lowercase members. You have Fox, the dude who gets ran by the train. Not that much anime to say about him. He has ferocity, I guess. There's that. And then Ash. New member like Rembrandt, but Rembrandt actually has a lot more big point of things for him. Ash is more of a play point, but Ash has charm. I'll give him that, I guess. He's pretty cool. Those are all the members. To recount, Cleon, the leader, Swan, right hand man, Ajax, the muscle, Snow, Vermin, Rembrandt, the youngest, Cochise, real nigga, Fox, Ash. And so with that being said, that leaves 9 members, actually including 10. I forgot about Cowboy almost for a second. Cowboy, a regular, like a cowboy, like he's cool. Cowboy hat, cowboy pretty much vest, like everything fits him with his entire setup with everything. I like that a lot of them are shirtless with their vest too. It's pretty cool. Like no homo. It just makes them look like masculine warriors. I just like the feel of it. No homo shit. You know, boy going rocky. You know, nigga husky, chunky. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, a nigga still gotta represent the games. You know what I'm saying? A husky built nigga like I'm Thor. You feel what I'm saying? And Swan is my favorite member out of all of these. I don't really have a big specific reason. He's just cool. I like him. I like his feel. He's protagonist. I like the feel of him. But if I had to say a character that I like the most, I definitely do like Cleon. I like his leader build. I like his brutaciousness. I like his feel. I like that he pretty much is the blood war chief. He don't give a fuck. And obviously, as his game's appeal is and how it's like with the destroyers, it is obviously Crips versus Bloods. It's pretty self-explanatory. I like how it's built though, especially in the account for them fighting over one single take of turf, like in the form how L.A., Compton, what is another place like Atlanta, like how Bloods and Crips really be punking out against each other and doing all this other hood rat shit to prove a point, where the case may be, depending on the matter. You feel what I'm saying? I really do like it in this case. I like how all of it's built together though. That's just really how I see it with these characters and how they're all built. I like them in their own right, you know. And at the same time, technically, even though she's not a warrior, you could count 11 people with main characters, with Mercy rolling with the warriors as the love interest, the Swan. They have a very, how should I say this, a most peachy but kind of interesting relationship. I'll get to that. But that's pretty much just a big description of who they are. You know, a Turk gang war out, correlating with a bunch of people going after the warriors and the city gang streets of riots and a bunch of stuff, parlaying in effect, evolving them and all that. And there's a lot more to that. But to go ahead and get into another thing I want to talk about is the movie and why it's a classic, to get into the review of that. The Warriors is a cult classic for multiple different reasons. Not just in the form for the iconic scene that happens at Coney Island early morning at 5:23 a.m. like you just saw on the screen with "Come out to play, Warriors." No, it's a lot more than that. Even though that is a solid reason. It is one of, if not the most iconic line in movies for just how menacing, how weirdly and creepy Luther is. Shout out to the actor that played Luther. I forgot his name. Shout out to the actor that played Michael Beck in the game and in the movie, obviously, originally. My boy, Michael Beck! And most importantly, the person who played AJ. Shout out to everybody that reigning as the Warriors. Y'all are the most iconic people as a group together. Y'all just are intercircled together so hyper-versatily, and I just like that. But most importantly, how they're like and how everything's coming together on them is just legendary. I love everything with them. The iconic tatted up car for whatever. The iconic Rose all the way out from Hell's Kitchen, chasing after the Warriors, all the way out from Coney Island and everything else. With that being said, chasing someone like Swan and the rest of the Warriors for this entirety and all that, and going after them on full hyper speed Deku, you know what I'm saying? On some weird shit. But either way, though, I like how they're put together in this, and most importantly, with that kind of line that you're about to see here. There's a bunch of other things with the music, the fact that the characters were soft for what it was, and everything in the price and the scenery that was delivered was stunning. And now you guys get to see one of the most iconic lines of history. As you can see with the timing and everything, it's greatly put together. It's a great setup evolving the form of menacingness. Maybe not in the same fashion as some of y'all want, but the old heads who watched it back over in 1979, or people like me that is an old head degenerate that loves old stuff, will probably go ahead and like it overarchingly. But it's not even about that. I just feel like some people can see why that could be not as terrifying, but just, nerve-wracking. It has a menacing feel. It has iconic. It's a very meme-based thing. It's a meme. Almost everybody in cinema, fiction, real life says it. In hide and seek, come on, come out to play. Like somebody's gonna say that. Somebody figures gonna say that. Somebody in Hit Monkey said that. Lady Bullseye said that shit. A bunch of villains say that shit. Somebody will have the audacity to say that to make you feel like coming out to play or bring out that ringer. Back in the day, bro, I didn't even know what the Warriors was. I found out about the Warriors when I was in high school, which is probably the most appropriate time to even find out about the Warriors in general, maybe, possibly. I don't know. But in accounting for how it was like in the timing of it is the reason why it's the way it is here, because it's just how ridiculously robust a bunch of this shit is for the case of the time and everything that comes with that being said, because it's a pure fact that a game like this exists and does everything that it does in the way that it does, and how it's like and compound with the movie makes it iconic. And no matter if you're an old head who watched back in 1979 or old enough to remember this movie to a higher point, or you're like me, an old school boy, an old head, Chad, cultured swine, you like the movie and you like what it's like, you know what I'm saying? You like everything that puts together with the culture, the music, the old school shit, the iconic music. Like, there's a bunch of things that make it a iconic thing. But let's go ahead and talk about why this game is underrated and underappreciated for how much pinnacle of bangerness it had and how much legacy it had, and the fact that it will bring on a descendant like Bully that carry on more push on that brutaliousness that the game had. This game is underrated for multiple different reasons. The main reason why is because it's set for the time necessarily. And I'm not talking about people not liking it because the game is a lot too hardcore, it's too violent, whatever the case may be. Even that is a reason. The Warriors is one of the most violent games I've ever seen. But I say an expression, there are a lot more. I mean a lot more big, high-pitched, violent games. When people say that, they're meaning for how grotesque and the same man for how it is. Because this game got a remaster, got a whole new reform of graphics. It'll probably be up there to the state of violence. It's pretty violent for the run of it, and I'm not talking about how obviously it has San Andreas case of look, because again, this game is still a 2005 game that came out on PlayStation 2 for PS, which obviously I also want to say that what I would have a coverage a full point on it, because it's going to be so explanatory for how much hype I say this game is, because this game is arguably 8 to 9 out of 10 for multiple set of reasons. Obviously it has problems as the game with bugginess, but I'm just saying for all the great pros it has, because the cons are just a downlay on it just a little bit. It's not actually an overarching downgrade to like the cons that will come from Assassin's Creed 3 and playing it in general, because Assassin's Creed 3 has some bugs with it, for example, that kind of make it be down because they're obviously not fixed for the time, but I'm saying that doesn't take away the goodness with it, like Assassin's Creed 3, even though Assassin's Creed 3 has its own problems, but not like in this the story or something like that, like other people, with their own subjective opinion, obviously. I'm not trying to bash, but I'm saying that with that being said, the reasons why this game is a lot more overarchingly good that I feel like some people give it credit for overarchingly is just the pure fact that this game has so much anatomy about it as a game. And obviously if you don't like hardcore, big violence, that's fine. But again, there's a bunch of other games that are a lot more more violent than it. Like Mortal Kombat, God of War, other running games. I can go on and on and on. Obviously, that could be a problem for some people. But no, I feel like it's because it's set out for the time, because other games are over-putting at the time for some GTA games, other kind of games coming out with it, and other games making more bank. Obviously, it was put out there, but most people not ever hearing about The Warriors, because The Warriors is an old movie, and obviously, its legacy is still here. And like when the people have said in the form of actually watching the movie, this game and this movie is timeless for what it is, but the movie is reckoningly timeless because the movie holds so much acuteness for the factor for how much it has evolving a movie in its great a time span as a movie and everything that it had and its brothel goodness and that kind of stuff. Its gangs, the actors, the heavy setting, and just all the stuff that came together, the scenery, everything. I already talked about how it was a classic and all that, but my main reason again for why it's timeless, accompanied with being a classic, is because everything that put it together. And like the actor that played Kochi said as well, people will be watching his movie, his work with this for over 1,000 years most likely. Excuse me, how I'm going to stretch. But at the same time, it's not just about him, obviously, because of him obviously doing a solid work as Coaches and doing other stuff. Appreciate you for being Goat Cheese, my man. Wait, hold up. Did I say Goat Cheese or Goat Cheese? I don't even know what I just said. I mean, still, if you want to call him Goat Cheese, that's fine. No matter the case of it, he would sound like a mess up. Thank you for being Coach Cheese. Appreciate to everybody. I know you probably will never see this, but everybody in the movie did splendid, even for the case of somebody like Fox not being there for so long. I do Russell with how he was doing stuff and all that. It was just a solid time of seeing somebody and everybody and seeing them all. Oh, but still, you know, having a great time together. Very proud brothers together. Just put together in the most greatest solid time together and everything. They're just cool as of everything about them that just makes them, you know, brothers in their own right, and the things that make that cool. With that being said, but Coach Cheese, as the actor said, is that most people watching it for thousands of years, and I feel like people are going to be playing this game maybe not to that long, because the movie holds obviously bigger peak because of the fact that it's a movie. But most people didn't play it because, again, other games were over-raveling it. It wasn't the biggest hype. Most people didn't know what the Warriors was. And most generally, games built off of movies, such games trying to be like movies, don't work because a movie is different from a game, which is why some games can't be movies. Games can arguably be more solemnly as shows than movies. I can make a video about that myself, and most people can already see and agree with that. But at the same time, the reason why is, again, games are not the best as movies, and movies are not the best as video games, depending on the case. Mainly is because of the fact that they're based off of a movie doesn't work because the movie holds a better hype, and trying to rebuild the Warriors as the movie that it was into a game does not work in the best credibleness that it does because of the case for how much of it is like this and this for whatever the case may be. And that's just the main reason for why it doesn't work in full, because of the factor of everything going around with it, and it's simply just not the way people want to go ahead and see it. And again, these can be movies because the thing about a game is the playability and the impeachment for why it works. And at the same time, reason why games more or less cannot just be movies because people don't know how to reinvent the banger stuff about the lore or systematic stuff of a game into a movie, which is why Mortal Kombat 2021 doesn't work. This is why other stuff doesn't work. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, like I said in my little short review, does that better because it broke the curse of being, oh, video games can't be movies. But I mean, there's a difference with Sonic. With Sonic, it's a lot more easier. You have actual writing and good team. And those people who make the Sonic movies, both of them, extremely on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, love the source material. They actually care about it. It's not just, oh, money and doing a little bit of small talk because of the fact that Mortal Kombat 2021, for instance, was afraid to be the thing that it praised. They had to go and explain how the Mortal Kombat characters do what they do. It's not that hard to explain that them training, doing fighting moves explains it. And I understand, if you're not a Mortal Kombat fan, it might be confusing, but like if niggas are okay, in the words of Brust Poet, not to keep quoting people, but like it's just straight facts from these people, it's just that if they have no problem with niggas talking underwater in Aquaman 1, having no problem with a raccoon in a tree talking in Guardians of the Galaxy, and do not care if someone like Captain America's shield breaks physics, even though it's kind of explained, it's just a gag in the fact that the shield is thrown so hard it can break physics by Captain America. That's not that hard to understand. That's the reason why. You can explain all this shit, but like most people don't care. It's fiction. It's entertainment. Mortal Kombat should be built off of entertainment if you're trying to build it up into a movie in the first place, I feel like. So I don't understand why there needs to be an explanation. There really should not need to. There's no explanation needed for this shit. Just leave it the way it is. There should be no explanation at all. Leave it the way it is. If you have an honest problem with it, don't even make actual source material on it built by that point. With that being said, it's as simply as that. I don't see a reason why you would do that in the first place, me personally. But at the same time, it's underrated as well just because of the fact some people don't see it as the best because of the same effort being on PlayStation 2. And it's greatly underrated because of Rockstar's writing put into it. It's solid for what the game is. It's one of the best games on PlayStation 4 / PlayStation in general, in my opinion. With the soundtrack, the music like you hear now, with Here Comes That Sound Again, it's just banger, bro. Here comes that time. Here comes that time. I don't know if I'm gonna get copyright for this, but as you hear, it's banging. Especially on Soul's Rider Block, it's just banging. It's cool, man. It just be a while. You will. I'm gonna start singing now. No boy got screech ears, bro. But at the same time, it's just the greatness that comes with it and all that. They go and possibly really stretch here because obviously it's not like I have a problem with how I'm gonna be saying. I'm just saying the form for how it's like. There's a lot of great nuance to it for why it's underrated and accounting for how it's put together. And I'm not going to keep singing, obviously, with that being said. But I just wanted to get you guys to understand that how much the song and the soundtrack alone brings an epiphany and brings in excitement is what impeaches it to be so great because of how much anatomy is put together in it. That's why it works. That's why it's good. That's why it's a dope game. And that's why it's always going to be, you know, a top star game at a tie-in for how much anatomy is covered into it and all that is the main reason for why it works the way it does. And so with that being said, besides me not trying to go ahead and have your boy with screech ears from me actually going singing real quick and screeching y'all ears and breaking a glass, is that with this game being underrated, it's also the reason for why the story imposed it to actually be one of the most iconic games of PS, but there's a lot more for it being that, which I'm going to explain. Well, one of the reasons that's mainly one of the most iconic to go back and point with it is one, the combat inside that within two. The combat holds anatomy within the game and how it's laid out together and full for it. Obviously, there's a little bit of problem with the combat to go into the obviously give the game cons of being a review. It's just in the style for how it's set up. You can get easily mold. Sometimes there's arguably a case of it being a little bit too easy with the combat. It can get repetitive, but there's so much anatomy and uniqueness and good bundle of creativity that kind of cremates it to be a lot more than being repetitive. I can understand critically how the game can get repetitive, but there's a lot more bigger nuance in it than just fight, bloodshed, this and this. But there are some arguable points like where's the plot, where's it at, because there's a lot of different things that are trying to lead up to the big meeting that's actually the point for the movie that kind of runs the plot slow to get to that point. But I still think it's good because there's anatomy and stuff in between it. You have to kind of leave the combat aside because it's a fighting game at its hardest. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's beat 'em up, cash pillage, Grand Theft Auto, fuck the police, a thuggish game. Like, you're gonna have to deal with the repetitive shit. Because same thing with GTA, that shit's repetitive, and arguably GTA is a repetitive game, but people still like it. Like there's nuance to it. And I'm not trying to jab GTA. I'm just saying that you could make the same argument. Just because that's the main fundamental of it doesn't mean the game itself is repetitive. But there is an argument for both that the wars does get repetitive sometimes, and GTA has gotten repetitive, and arguably it is repetitive. But that's a whole different story for another time. I'm just saying that there's arguments to be made for why it's not. That's all. I'm not trying to jab. I'm not trying to poke fun. I'm just being realistic for why I feel like this and this is the main assertion for why it's the way it is, because simply it's just different format of things that make it grand all for how it's set up and what combinates it to be good in its grand A form and all that, which is the main reason why it's set up the way I think it is, like that and all that. Pretty much it, overarchingly, with why it's iconic from that point. Then at the same time, second, is with also music, not with this music, is just Ice, gotta fuck with one of the greats, you know what I'm saying, OG. But at the same time, the soundtrack mixing pours with other stuff that makes it cool is that. Also, other people that didn't go and play is also because of the vulgar and other kind of stuff. But it's so accurate to them. And again, shout out to all the actors that played in the movie that were like brothers that correlate with them. Michael Beck, person that played Ajax. James Renner, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong on his name, and the common for a person who played Cochise, and there are kids, people that did that as well. They're just played together with it, and some of these actors came back for the role, and even not the people in the game that represent it, the old actors, they solemnly or reinvented the characters a little bit more with style, which is why it does good. And I also want to talk about what the game does more than the movie, and why it's good, and other kind of things that make it super good and grand for what it is and all that. Which is because they added on bigger story, it's canon, it correlates together good, it made two great antagonists a little bit more better, kind of, even though the thing about Luther as a character is that he's fine, he just works for the conflict. He's not a super big boastful villain, but you kind of get to see a little bit more of the crazed clown that he is in the game. It doesn't make him better or worse necessarily, but it makes him, a lot more like fun, I guess, kind of. But at the same time, I never see really fun with Luther. I just see a deranged nigga, and that can be fine. The same thing with Joker. But what Joker does, I don't see fun. What I see with Joker, I just see a philosophy, if I'm saying. But I also see the same thing. That's just me personally. I don't think he's bad. He's not the best. Virgil, on the other hand, is a way better villain because of the facts for why he plays a good part against the Warriors, as the fact that he portrayed Cleon. He's a definition of greedy, corrupt, and brutal when he needs to. He doesn't fuck around. He'll fuck your ass up if he needs to. And overarchingly, there's big things that plot him to be, a menace that doesn't play around, and that's a good thing. And he works for Cleon the Vermin. I'm glad that Cleon the Vermin are the last people to go and ditch his ass in the flames. And most importantly, Cleon says, "You just started a war. I'm gonna be the last motherfucker you see before it's over. You greedy parasitic demon fuck." He ran up on him and he was like, "You just ruled yourself out into the war. I'm gonna be the last motherfucking scruffle you see before it's over." Simple as that. And he's done but ashes now. He charcoaled. He made him blacker than black, bro. Like, he's a definition of turning somebody more blacker than they already are. Made him black rat. Because you a rat, you a snake, you a op, you a bit. I'm gonna stop. Fall on the road. As is personally how I see it, Virgil is a better villain. I just feel like Luther's better for like the conflict of story. That's just why. That's really it. That's why it does better than the game. There's a sermon and stuff. But the movie is obviously iconic. It's timeless. That's why it works so greatly. The movie all around for what it is and how it's like, to go ahead and give it this a short review, which I'm gonna go more into like the story of it, because it compiles together into, I'm just going to give my own different opinion, but the movie is good. There's obviously problems for it being in 1979, close-ups, the budget, panning, the fact that the Fox actor could have showed up for a time and sort of replaced his ass with somebody else. And also I think, obviously the Fox actor, at least from everything we see, did enjoy his role, but there was some things behind the scenes where he didn't like it. From what I know, there's more talk about that by somebody else who did just a mainly game / movie review, mainly in the form of the movie. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, go ahead and go watch that video. I can put them in the description if y'all want, or just show it in the comments. But that's just personally how I see about it in this case. That's really how I feel about it overarchingly, for how they do things and just how the game is bundled together in their own right. Because simply, It's just about the timing for all of it. But I'm gonna get more into the story. But that's why it's iconic and everything that it has, and a lot of people that have played it, nuance and all that, especially mainly Berlizzi, who brought me into the clutch and feel of the game, brought that more in depthly to my eye in this case. That's just me personally for how I feel about it and all that. But besides that, time to go ahead and talk about the story. The story all around is a cool package. When it comes down to the game, obviously there's big extensions that go to multiple different type of people with little menaces, little cool stuff with multiple different missions. This game has a free roam feel of in the case of over the different levels and here and there. It's pretty cool. I like it. At the same time, with the capture light of these different levels is about showcasing the characters and other stuff more and more. I'm gonna go on characters in specific, the gangs and all that. But as an extended story, compacted to it, there are little similar contradictions that come together by like the first appearances of the gangs that come and push, like the Furies, the Golden Baseball Furies, bro. The Furies are the most iconic gang of all time, and this gang in the entire movie. You don't even have to know about the Warriors. This is a big point that comes with why the Warriors as a movie and as a game combined together holds a big iconic scene and legacy. Because kids or whoever doesn't even know the Warriors will know the Furies. At least a staple, the concept of them. A whole clown, psychopathic looking baseball player will always be the feel of how they see somebody like the Furies slash the Warriors. You always see somebody, at least one person. They might be an old head who actually knows about it. They might be a cultured swine. Somebody will be at a party looking like a Fury. Baseball get up, have a wooden baseball bat. If not, they'll have another type of baseball bat, but wooden baseball bat for the accuracy of the cosplay. And have some paint. Iconically, white and red, my guy. Like, it's legit the iconic that is spreaded. The Furies is the most iconic. I like how they're introduced as a Fury raid of pain, great championship look. A bunch of other case of gangs are super iconic. Obviously, the Warriors is the most iconic next to them. But the Furies is the most iconic because that chase scene is one of the best chase scenes in cinema history. Obviously, it's long, but it's just iconic because of the music. It's nostalgic. It's thrilling, nerve-wracking. And in the game, it's a lot more arguably scary and creepy because you're reliving, you're fulfilling the feel of how the Warriors would feel getting chased by like 9 to like 15 niggas late at night. In the movie, it's just more creepy and menacing because a bunch of people chasing after them, going after them and rock socking them here and there. And it's because of how disturbingly set up they are, it feels more of that game. You feel what I'm saying? Pun intended. But then at the same time, compacted with other stuff that makes the game cool and the kind of the story is introducing different gangs with different type of people and pressing them more anatomically. So with the orphans, when we meet them up again, it really feels like a whole homage to that same scenario. And actually, in between it is not actually a contradiction, technically. There's more contradiction for how realistically the setting would. It feels like because seeing the Warriors again, someone like the orphan leader, the war chief would be mad or whatever. But at the same time, he obviously is mad, but not at the same time mad more and furiously with it. Because obviously the whole entire plot line of them and compounded with the movie is the pure fact that these motherfuckers came in with no parlay. But you more mad because of the fact that they fucking thrashed his car, ran for everything, dominated the whole thing. Fox probably had more to say to Mercy, possibly, other stuff. But at the same time, it's not a bad interaction for what it is. And there's a story in the original story where Cyrus gets shot by Luther, and that compiles into obviously the foundation of how people feel and their feeling about other stuff and how the other characters are like and all that. Comes together good and it's a solid story. Then get back to their home. And throughout it, only 3 Warriors are lost, with Cleon getting gangbang jumped and him dying. Then Fox getting ran over by a train, and someone like Ajax, because of his arrogant, lustful ass, going to jail. Simple as that. 3 people lost, and the lasting people are Rembrandt, Swan, Mercy, even though she's a newcomer, she don't count as a war, but you get what I mean. Swan, Mercy, Cowboy, Cochise, Rembrandt, and Snow. Simple as that. Those are the last members. Those are all the members from our count that I know. And at the same time, remember enough for a fact that it's just those members that are alive and left throughout that case of point. In this sense, at the same time, there's also vermin as well. Not to forget, just to make that clear with all of them. But at the same time, the story overarchingly extended with all these different kind of people. It works, you know what I'm saying? Counting it all together and looking at it, I would still give it a solid 9 out of 10. There's a lot of different things that are having a problem with it. Compiled together obviously makes the game extremely long, and if you can pack all the other stuff together, involving it into like a movie, it'd be like an hour, 41 minutes, and maybe 54 seconds at highball. I don't really know. It really just depends. So pretty much an hour and 42 minutes long, almost. At the same time, it's not a bad thing not to say that back to back, because there's a bunch of different cool stuff put together that makes it into a big anatomy hype and accounting for how it's like and how it's put together. I like it overarchingly. Excuse me. But that's how I feel about the story overall. That's what I would rate it. That's how I would run it and everything for what it is and what it's trying to be. It's not a bad thing. But it's time to go and talk about why it's like Bully and what it did for Bully. Bully is a very dynamic game like Warriors, and it's an underrated game. Bully has its own great reasons for why it's good. Obviously, you go check out my review about it. But why it's like, obviously, Warriors is because, obviously, the Warriors came out 2 years to 1 year before it. And so, with that being said, Bully, as a whole, takes a lot of things descended from it. As obviously the Warriors was his past, it is descendant, it's his ancestor pretty much by itself, it's his dad. So with that being said, how the Warriors brought it was obviously its game mechanic of the underhealth, fighting mechanic, bringing in iconic moves or fighting styles of people, like overhead. Like in the game of the Warriors, a lot of obviously street fighting, bucking, and doing a bunch of other shit. But it's like karate, Muay Thai, boxing, brawling, wrestling, like different accounting things that are cool. Fucking the fighting setup for being a fighting game type of mix up and scruffling and doing a bunch of different stuff in this mayhem, wrecking how the fact that it involves a character that is objectively not perfect, not the best, even though Jimmy as a kid and as a person that does have good qualities to him and obviously isn't dark as everybody else, because obviously with the Warriors they're all objectively bad people, they're not good people, and that's fine, doesn't make them bad. You can like bad people as long as there's something charismatic about them or something else charismatic about it. It's not just that. Mainly for me, as long as they're cool, have understandable means for why they do what they do. Even though the Warriors, it's not super clear cutter, but it's pretty self-explanatory. But even then, having cool reasons or why they're evil or be callous for whatever reason, they're objectively bad, is put with something inanimate that correlates to me liking them a lot more because of the more grander things to them, or most importantly, the reasons why they do it in compound with their character lays up to me or just feel out they're interesting. This is the stuff that kind of defoils a little bit of why I don't and do kind of feel good about Kratos, but there's different reasons for why I don't like Kratos, which I already kind of explain my reason for it. But at the same time, there's a lot more reasons for why I feel the way I feel, and accounting for why someone like these people work for me, which I'm gonna explain that with the characters part. But again, Jimmy is more objectively neutral and is solid, but almost all the members of the Warriors, pretty much as all of them, are downright objective bad people. They do the most out of pocket shit. They are hood rats defined. They're arrogant, ignorant, and for the most part, from accounting for how they're all basically like, they are to grown men, to young adults, it still means grown men doing this shit and poverty off of the fact of being in street life. And the youngest member of them, Rembrandt, because in accounting for the movie, which I don't know how this works, is obviously they're grown men in Hollywood and just in general who play younger characters, even if they're not around that age, which is kind of changed here and there. They're supposed to be subdued as being the format of being kids, even though none of them look like kids generally, because a lot of them are over here in their mid-20s, being in their early 30s possibly, or whatever the case. And the longest person who's playing Rembrandt is still in his 20s, obviously, but is like out of high school age. So say Rembrandt is that, because he'd probably be the person that's still in like high school age, but probably comes from a suburban home, got no nothing to do that he ain't no poverty, he don't got no struggle to why he needs to be in a gang in New York. He just do it out of obligation because it feels peace to me. He feels prevalent doing it. He probably come from a home of niggas who love him. But look at these people. They grown ass men. They have no reason to be doing this besides the money, hustle, whatever. They probably do. They probably got their own struggle. But like they have their own accomplishments for why they're going to be doing it. He probably don't. He could make a life hustling and tagging. This man over here, Ajax, be doing it for the most down bad knuckle reasons for why he does what he does. It's legit flat out just, oh, I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna break somebody's face in, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this for whatever kind of a reason. I'm not having actual grand reign of reasons for why they would be doing what they're doing, depending on the case. Because it's legit just, oh, I'm gonna knuckle up with this person, I'm gonna do that because these niggas kill niggas. Like, I don't want to keep saying it, like in a racial point, but these motherfuckers do objectively bad stuff, and they don't have reasons. Ajax is childish, a bunch of Jackass people are childish, here and there. I say to him, I get it. The gang members, they not gonna be goody two shoes, and that's not what I need. I like them for the most part, and it's not because obviously I agree with it, and as them being video game fictional characters, I can take a leeway with it. But the thing for why they work is because their reasons compared to other gang members that arguably are worse, because the hi-hats seem like psychopaths, the theories are just fucking weird. They need to be on the FBI watch list, and most importantly, the destroyers are some fucking ops. Like, you feel there's a reason for why you can root for the arguable bad guys, but they're not supposed to just be good. There's some level point of like likeness that can be accustomed to them depending on your feel of them, because of the likeness that comes in and pave with them to make them seem cool, you know. Because someone, again, like Snow is brutacious, but there's likeness to him, there's coolness to him. Cleon is vicious, but he's a cool leader. You can understand it comes for his reasons. Swan has problems, but he has coolness and likeness and some gravitas, and he has some form of compassion and kind of love to him, like his love with Mercy, him having compassion for her and liking her and trying to be better and teaching her that she looks beautiful even if she looks a little bit raggy. She's beautiful just the way she is, and it'll fix your hair for these chumps, which I can't wait to go ahead and show that scene. Because even though, again, their love bond is not the best, it's a weird-ass love interest, I'm not going to lie, but, you know what I mean, it's what it is, you know, man's sexual tendencies. And he kind of can grasp the reason for why she would be a prostitute, even though obviously he don't fuck with prostitutes and all that, and he kind of makes that very explicit and all that, and bends a lot of his hatred and his madness a little bit to her. Not in a violent way, but just verbally, like saying, like, I don't fuck with you, you dirty, you're weird, and you're a whore. But then he actually gets an understanding of that, and he just actually changes from that and all that. And that's just how he feels a little bit on the deeper side, but he doesn't, like, make that explicit. He's not a jackass. Like, Swan holds a lot more gravitas and goodness. Rembrandt, you can see goodness in, because, like, who let they fucking baby out here? You feel what I'm saying? Because you see what it is where everybody's scourging around. He's so scared and nervous. Like, who let they baby out here? You feel what I mean? Like, it is weird as hell. It don't make sense. But at the same time, besides that little side tangent, I still like it, and I like what they did for Bully, with the gravitas, the weaponry, the fighting. And even though not being as brutal, Bully still had its own, you know, big violent tendencies. And obviously, like the Warriors, people said that advocated for violence, it did this, it did this. Even though there's a lot more bigger things that come into play with what Rockstar did for both of them, and they're both banger Rockstar games, without a doubt. And I like how both of them are like. Besides that, though, time to go ahead and move on to my next point for the characters. And at the same time, why it's one of the best Rockstar's games. I kind of already explained, but slightly here is just how much gravitas and pivocy for why it is the way it is. I don't like saying I worry about the back, but it's just how much this game is running together in a circle of gray and nuance. That's why. Time to actually go ahead and talk about the characters more in depthly and put into it. The characters, like I said before, are not the best. Not as in being bad, because all of them have their own little peachy things coming together with them as New York brothers. But in the factory, for how they're like as characters and objectivity, factoring. Wait, hold up. We're kind of sound a little bit on both sections. We're talking about objectivity, because sometimes that word kind of sounds a little bit weird, but sometimes it sounds perfect. But in the factor, because it kind of sounds a little bit weird, and accounting for it. I don't know if I'm actually at this out, because the compound with what I'm trying to be saying correlates with it. I'm saying in vast for why they work, even being objectively bad people and being criminals, is because they have that cool and stuff about them, that charm, ingenuity, coolness, and animacy, or there's a kind of actual stellar character that can make them good. For instance, Ajax, and I'm not saying that these people that make this game and the factor of what Warriors was is trying to rationalize is out of pocketsy and they count how the characters talk and how mean they are, whatever the case. They're trying to make entertainment out of it. So don't compare today's time to it is of a different time, like Ajax. He says homophobic, disrespects women, treats them bad, arguably sexually assaults them, and acts very rapey-like in comparison to them. Like I'm trying to rape a woman on a bench, or being weird as hell to a female over on the block, like his introduction scene in this case. But at the same time, you have to laugh at it and actually rationalize the poor attitude of him and the fact that he's an arrogant, very out of pocket person at the grass fight, and you have to really just cling to a bigger means of understanding to really get why he acts the way he does and how that's like overarchingly. Because he's not actually a bad person overarchingly to the point where he downgrades every cent of likeness to him necessarily, because Ajax is not a good person. Objective overarchingly, he's a pretty shitty scum motherfucker. But I'm saying he's not to the baddest person to the point where you can't find likeness into him. He's a fan favorite. That's not even just an opinion. That's a fact. Like any old head, generally, if you ask a 50% of the fan base with the Warriors today, it would probably be Ajax as the favorite because he's just fucking hilarious. He's so bad, he's so funny. That's just the thing about it. He's one of these characters that are either so badly written or so bad as like a character that you can like him. Biker leather gloves, the iconic black shirt, and the iconic red Warriors vest. It just correlates with his character. Just that character that doesn't give a shit and just will punk you out either case. And most people, at times, same man for New York would probably think this way, depending on the case of arguably being a shitty person or same man for talking and verification. You feel what I'm saying? So not to be dramatic, but that's just how you could appease to how his character's like and how they do things, because simply his character is not the best, but not so downgraded and out of pocket that there's not any scent of likeness to him, is what I mean in general. Because you have to go and accept that, again, he's not the best person, but there is likeness that could be quantified to him. And don't just see him as straight up bad just for whatever, because you have to go ahead and think about the times and think about the things that happen with it, and not just think of him as just really bad because of that. Obviously, there are arguable critical means about his characters. Arguably, he might do too much, but he's just for the laughs and stuff. So I don't necessarily think he's bad with that being said. But I'm going to talk about account for how they're like, besides my explanation for the badness, not to go ahead and again rationalize it, so I make that big point clear, because some of you guys won't be listening to that, is the things that make him cool. Start off with Swan, the protagonist, with the co-protagonist, Cleon. Swan is cool to me because he's a cool cat. He has dynamic things about him. There's a lot of love put into him, I feel like, for the count for him being protagonist and going for the struggle and being a new leader, being a new war chief, and being second command, not pushing to actually be the strength of the team mentally and physically, because he has to endure all the rugby shit that goes on, and he has to go for the struggle, and I like it. Even though it's not shown verbally, Swan is a character who makes actions be the ramification of what he believes and how he feels about things, which is what I like the most about everything that's happening with his character, and I like how he does things. Cleon, the pretentious leader who don't take shit from nobody, was a rookie and now rising to the top and making the Warriors be a name of all city. The term of going all city for the Warriors meant a high staple in the underground, the gangs, the boppers, everybody being notorious gang members that oversaw a bunch of people in a gang that even without Cleon, his spirit still went through and making him, be stronger. And I like how he's put together as a leader and what he has. I like his look of that African war chief look, and I like how he's put together as a character for how he makes things out and how he's just like all around, because there's a lot of things about him that are ridiculous but cool for the grand most part, because of the fact that with him as a character, he has nuance to him, even with him arguably be ridiculous or whatever the case, because of some other ascension of times with how he acts and how he does things. Because obviously, again, him as a leader and like everybody else is not good as a person, but has the impeachment of being cool as a character overall. That's the thing that I like about him. That's the thing that I like about him overarchingly and how he works, because he's just cool all around, as a leader, and I like how he forms together, and in combat, he's a black Bruce Lee, He's black dynamite solidified, overarchingly. Now, with all that being said, though, his character and his Cunningham performance with the voice actor and everything stuff is cool, and I like that as well. You have Rembrandt, the youngest of the group, the artist. His name is Rembrandt for a reason. That's just the feel for how he does things and all that, and simply him just being someone who don't fuck around and be out here ready to scruffle no matter the case and run around fucking other motherfuckers up at a high end. But at the same time, with how his character's like, he probably does have obligation, but I like his moveset. He's underrated in the film for how he does things. I like his performance by both actors, and obviously the live action and the video game take with how he goes about doing things. He close hands motherfuckers, got cunningness to him, fuck around, bop motherfuckers. I like his artistic take put into how he fights and does things, and his moveset is pretty cool all around. He does what he needs to do, and like you see on footage, he runs around doing a lot of different cool stuff with how he does things as well. And at the same time, I just kind of fuck with him. You know, he's the most wimpiest of the group, obviously. Super skinny, probably like 80 pounds, soaking wet, it seemed like. But, like, does his thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, he has care for the team, and, you know, he's a little homie. He's a young, blonde, black, you know what I'm saying? Which I like, though, because obviously you get to feel a young vibe of him and get to feel his creativity, get to see other stuff. And my favorite mission of him is obviously Soho's Rider's Block. The train one is kind of cool, but the train one is just a whole collage of annoyances because the cops, dangerous gang out here, bro. A frontal assault, bro. They might be easy on one or flip side, bro, but when they full collage you get fucking Salex with them motherfuckers, man. It's tiring, bro. It's tiring. But either way, I like how it's put together with the character and him and other cowboy, fine, vermin, laughing attire. Like with him, there's the thing. With them, there's everything like similarly cool about them, but all of them have things that kind of don't differentiate them. With Vermin, he's just the kind of comic relief. He's not the most funniest, but he has his own funny jabs and every case of stuff that comes together with his character. Kind of like his design, how he feels, but he's not the same thing as his homeboy Swan. And then someone like Agent's already talked about, but I love that he can bop. That motherfucker can bruise. He can bop. And most importantly, not that she keeps saying that and saying that for what it is, to solidify what I said, reiterate, is that a form for how he does things as a character, even again, not being the best, objectively works in nuance with him being able to fight and do this and be cool in grand form. And most importantly, he takes a lot of the great means of being a crowd favorite in the form for how he does things. And within the crowd, everybody likes to go and quote him, you know, fucking A, when you bop that Fury in the face, fucking A. Iconic line, some things that other people say, New Yorkin line, that New Yorker kind of feel with it. I also want to go and mention, if y'all know what OG Period is, he kind of has the face of OG Period as well. And shout out to Ajax being one of the most bangers, GOAT characters of cinema, and iconicy, I guess, for that as well. And at the same time, James Renner for being an iconic representation of him, and at the same time, just being a GOAT actor all around. There's a bunch of cool stuff that still goes to nuance when it comes for how they're like and how they do things all around, which I like that. Most importantly, mainly just because it's cool. Great delivery, great coolness, and all around, I just love how they're like and how they're put together. There's a lot of different cool stuff rained together involving their characters and how they make things out and how they do things, because the characters are dope. They have a lot of coolness to them, like I said before, and everything that they have together as characters, as a team of a gang, is cool. And Ajax brings that nuance, even being a knucklehead. At the same time, some like Ash, not the most animate, cool Snowman, aka Snow. He's just a beast. Like, he's just a motherfucker that will sway on anybody that gets in your way in the game. He just be the biggest knucklehead bruiser on your team. He don't fuck around. He wreck shop on anybody that gets around him. I just like that. I like his design. I like Koji, especially with his whole Muay Thai enactment look, Native American feel, and fundamental of that as well. And paired together with someone like I had to go and stretch there. Well, I'm not like switching back to back, it's just me doing that. But I was just saying that as well, paired together with everybody else, he's cool. Like a side friendship with someone like Ajax as well, put together into combination with how they're all like, and their super moves and our iconic seasons. There's good all around, and the other kind of foreign characters like Cyrus and others are important and cool together with what they do. What Cyrus is speaking about was actually patriotic and cool for what I was listening to and everything. Again, it wasn't like the most flamboyant, compacted form of a speech, but his speech did hold prevalence of building peace for his brothers in the streets, because there was no reason to actually have this debacle and unpeace, which run together and no reach. I'm gonna stop it on the real. I like how it's like them trying to go ahead and best the biggest gang out here, the cops, which is truly a flock of a gang itself, real life and in this, but at the same time, which is not a job to the police, they ain't for the service for the most part, even though a lot of them police know some shady shit, no cap. I'm just saying, in account for how the police are liking this, and the case for Matt for why Cyrus does what he does, is an interesting point for what he's trying to push for, how he makes it out to be, because purely fact, they don't need to be actually fighting for the little 10 feet, square feet of ground in this case, because it doesn't actually make no difference for us. We can do a lot more stuff miles per second by better means, and don't have to go by a bigger, large wow if we don't actually go together for what it's supposed to be. And there's a lot more to that, but that's just pretty much a grand point for what he's trying to go ahead and say, and trying to make that into something that is actually holding gravitas, because a lot of time people just bopping out here, not holding the point, split your head to get your rep up. If we actually make bigger means and clear out turf one by one, we actually make a hall of greatness in a sense, which I like that. Like the other case characters, Scopes was a character that was just kind of cool. Seeing Soho, he's a cool dude. I like how he rhymes, puts things together. I like how different side poor and black characters rhyme stuff together. Like the little innuendos that come together to this. I like how you go almost all over New York in different cases of the trenches and branches for different things involving the people and all that. And they're cool anarchist things coming together there. It's just pretty cool. I like it. I like how it's put together all around, pretty much to me. That's how I really feel about it overarchingly, personally. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. It's almost over for this, for the time for what I'm going to be putting together with all of this and that. It's going to be a shitload of F through. I hope you guys have enjoyed. That's it for characters and everything else. In part 2, I could be talking about gangs and other stuff possibly with it, but all the gangs that have been seen and shown are dope. I like everything that they have, especially the Furies, the most iconic gang, obviously by showcasing, and I love everything plopped together with them and the stuff that makes them cool in their own right and all that. It's pretty banger to me. I used up all my brain cells on component of everything that I had to go and say with this about Ajax and their kind of people involving the wars and all that. That's all I have to go ahead and say. Talk for so damn long with that being said. Also with Fox, again, like his ferocity, again, missing up on members with so many different cases of members. But all the members, Rembrandt, Ajax, Swan, Vermin, Ash, Fox, Cleon / War Chief. Then you have someone like Cowboy. And that is it. I'm pretty sure next to Cochise and Snow, which is all the people that obviously get the same thing we think like the Eternals, with having like, you know, Gilgamesh, Ajax is counting for this, will count for Gilgamesh in this, but not necessarily like a differentiation, which I'm not gonna like compare, but I'm saying that's how I feel about it. But I obviously get all the members with that being said, like with the Eternals, because obviously there's Gilgamesh, Icarus, Ajax, aka Ajax possibly, I think, I'm pretty sure it's Ajax. Then you have Fastos, Cersei, Sprite, Kingo. You have, what's her name? The speedster. That's a different story, but account for all the warriors. Cleon, Swan, Ajax, Rembrandt, Vermin, Cowboy, Ash, Fox, Cochise, Snow. 10 niggas all around no. Not what I was thinking about at first, but those are all the members of the Warriors mainlinely. And I like all of that put together with these Warriors that make them differential, like in the case for Ajax, who has a lot of creativity and not put into him. But that's it for this, guys. Hope you guys have enjoyed my review, almost a full hour long. Put a lot of different work into it. I love y'all. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, mommy. Love y'all.